you live, of course, in Western Australia, have for a long time now, and worked here with the Armadale congregation for a long time. But in addition to that, you've had a wonderful privilege that some of us have also had to be able to do work in other countries, in many parts of the world, even living different places overseas. Yeah. So if you would mind, just spend a couple minutes talking about how you got into that, how you became acquainted with doing work overseas, and some of the places maybe that you and Anne and Jamie have lived and done work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I started getting an interest in work in other countries. Now, for a lot of people, Australia, of course, is a foreign country, and it's very much like a foreign work, even living here. But Jerry Carter had encouraged me to look beyond the borders of Australia, and he invited me to work with him for a little while in Penza, Russia.
What year was this?
This would be in the early 90s, and this was at a time in my preaching where I really needed to get together with another preacher and study and work with him, get more experience. And so this is a great opportunity. So I was over there for...
Now, this would have been the very early days of the work in Russia, is that right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And so I had a great privilege of sitting at Jerry's feet, hearing him preach, and then studying with him through the day. And that led to a request from another congregation that was close to the Penza congregation in Saransk, Russia. And they asked if I would be willing to come and work with them for 6 months. So I contacted my very patient wife, Anne, and she agreed, and we moved with our young son. He was about 8 years old then, and we moved to the town of Saransk in Russia, which was very challenging. Communism had fallen at that stage, but this town was in a semi-autonomous republic that had voted in a communist government, local government. So nothing really had changed in that town as far as that goes. But we worked with a church there. We had some success. We had quite a number of baptisms, and that was a tremendous experience, and opened my eyes to, there are people all over the world who are needing to hear the gospel.
Right.
And so it was a great privilege to be able to do that. Since then, I've worked with the brethren in Malaysia. I got involved in that work through the encouragement of Mike Criswell, and we really loved that. And then I was asked to visit Africa, once again by Jerry Carter.
Right.
And he asked me to visit Malawi, where he was working at that stage. And during that visit, he had received a request to go to the East African country of Tanzania. This preacher had studied himself out of multiple cups and was looking for someone to help him. So during the visit that Anne and I had with Jerry and Linda, Jerry and I made a side trip up to Tanzania and found this man who was very keen and very interested in receiving help there. So for the next year and a half, maybe even 2 years, I would go fairly regularly for a month at a time to Arusha, Tanzania, and Alan Makita and I would work together, and we had a great working rapport. And in time, it was organised for Anne and I to move over there for a 3-year period.
Jamie now is an adult and
Jamie's
on his own.
He's in university.
Okay.
He's about to graduate from university. So time has moved on.
Yes.
And so he fully encouraged us to make this move, and he could look after himself.
Yeah.
So that was a wonderful thing.
And so what was that experience like, living in Tanzania for 3 years?
Again, our eyes were opened to foreign work and what it was all about. You go over to these countries And you understand that I was raised in a colonial period in Africa.
Right.
And my family, my parents, continue to have a colonial mindset.
Right.
And that is where these natives
Right.
need people to help them,
Yeah.
to look after them in a fatherly sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. A great shepherd.
And I feel tremendously privileged to be able to have lived in Africa when they had their own independence, where this was not part of the makeup of the country. They make mistakes, of course they do. Every country does.
Yeah.
But the eye-opening thing was that this very same colonial attitude was happening in the churches. And they weren't called colonials, they were called missionaries. And they had missions. And so the Baptists, the Anglicans, the Catholics,
Right.
all of the major denominations had these large missions where they would have local people come in. They didn't call them natives, but they treated them in just the same way. And there was also a large multiple cups Church of Christ mission in the same town where I was, where I would hear that preachers had to go in every beginning of the month with their hands out to get paid in their hand by the missionary. So I formed very firm feelings about this idea. If we go into a foreign work, we have to go in as evangelists,
Yeah.
as ministers of the gospel. Now, the term minister means servant. We have to go to serve the people. We're not over anyone.
Right.
And we have to work with that attitude. I am often called a missionary, but I stop people and say, I'm not a missionary. I'm a preacher. And often there are African preachers with me. I say, just like this man.
Yeah.
I'm a preacher just like him. And I think that's the attitude is really important, that we have that attitude. We don't follow the mistakes of old, but we look that we're going to help autonomous congregations if they want.
Yeah.